Thunder rolled over the floating peaks of Aeloria, rattling the lanterns that hung outside Sira's workshop. Inside, the glow from 100 candles danced across half-finished glass spheres and silver filaments. Sira wiped her brow with a soot-stained cloth, the scent of burning oil clinging to the air. She was no hero, just a lantern maker. When the first tear in the night sky ripped open, nobody came running for swords. Instead, they raced to buy lanterns, each hoping a little more light would keep the prowling shadows at bay. But tonight, the darkness felt different. Agnes, a weathered messenger, burst through the door, winded and wild-eyed. "It's the council, Sira! You're summoned! Now!" Sira froze. "Me? There's gotta be a mistake. Lantern makers don't you. They said your name, and bring your finest lantern." Agnes's gaze flicked skyward where, beyond the clouds, eerie shapes flickered and howled. Sira hesitated only a moment before bending over her workbench. Her masterpiece, a lantern etched with strange markings she'd found in her grandmother's trunk. It pulsed with a faint, unnatural glow whenever she touched it. She'd never shown it to anyone. Outside, the streets of Miroweld blazed with fear. People clung to pools of light like they were lifelines, eyes darting to every shadow. Overhead, the rift had widened, a jagged mouth spilling ink-black creatures onto the cobbled roads below. They prowled in packs, shapes twisting and fading, snatching stray souls before melting back into the night. Agnes pressed ahead, leading Sira through alleys and shortcuts until Dawntide Citadel loomed, its crystalline towers threading into the stars. Inside, the council waited, 7 robed figures bathed in the aurora's shimmer. As Sira stepped forward, every eye fixed on the lantern in her trembling hands. The oldest counselor, Amara, spoke. "That lantern of yours, show us how it catches light." Her tone left no room for protest. With a glance at Agnes, Sira drew a shard of starlight down from the ceiling, a trick she'd learned before she could walk. She let it swirl into her lantern. Instantly, the darkness in the corners shrunk away. But then, something else happened. A black tendril of shadow, drawn from the council's own gloom, twisted out and darted into the lantern, writhing behind the glass. The lantern pulsed, now both light and darkness inside. Gasps erupted. Amara spoke again, voice grave. "Sira, our world is unraveling. Your lantern is the only hope. You must forge a greater one, a lantern to unite the rival clans and seal the rift. Will you try?" Sira glanced at the writhing shadow in her lantern, then at the frightened faces in the chamber. "I'm no hero," she whispered, "but I'll try." And so, guided by destiny and fear, Sira stepped out into the unknown, hoping her fragile light could save all of Aeloria from endless night. Clutching her lantern, Sira trudged through the dawn-flecked corridors of Dawntide Citadel. Amara glided beside her, robes trailing like mist. Shadows flitted across the marble, as if even the morning sun could not fully drive back the encroaching dark. "Why me?" Sira murmured, more to herself than to the counselor. "Anyone could hang some glass and metal together." Amara's eyes softened. "But only you have sparked light from fear, Sira. That matters now." They reached the Hall of Sand and Ash, a war room littered with maps and sigils. At its center blazed a blue flame. Around it stood 2 uneasy figures, a broad-shouldered man with midnight skin and a braid of silver, Kale, chieftain of the Stormfell clan. Opposite him, a slender woman in emeralds and wolf furs, Sira, leader of the Verdant Shroud. Kale's voice was thunder. "We came for battle plans, not to trust a lantern maker. Your council drags us here and expects us to believe one girl can fix the sky?" Amara's reply was as cold as the frost on the windows. "She's not just any girl. You've seen what she can do, Sira. Show them." Sira's hands shook as she lifted her lantern. Inside, the trapped tendril of darkness coiled around the starlight. She drew a breath, whispered an old word, and the lantern shot a beam of light and shadow across the table. Where it struck, the map glowed and every patch of darkness on it quivered, then shrank. The room pulsed with stunned silence. Vera's voice was low, wary. "If she can truly forge such a lantern, then we must put aside old blood. But it will not be easy." Sira squared her shoulders, heart pounding. "I need your best glass, your rarest oils, your clan's heartfire. Only then can I try to forge it." Kale grunted. "Stormfell does not share lightly, lantern maker." Vera looked at Sira, eyes narrowed in assessment. "Nor do we. Yet, if the darkness wins, what power will we have left to guard?" Amara nodded. "This is the pact. Stormfell's fury shrouds wisdom in your light, Sira. Go now, unite what is broken. Return with the lantern or not at all. As Sira left, flanked by Kale and Vyra, the enormity of her quest trembled in her hands. Trust had to be forged, stronger than any metal. Behind them, the blue flame flickered uneasily, as if already sensing the tremors of night creeping ever inward. The journey from Dawntide Citadel to the floating isles of Stormfell was as dangerous as it was breathtaking. Mountains drifted on hidden winds above a sea of clouds, each one tethered by ancient chains and pulsing with blue-white lightning. Sira clung to the wooden sky skiff, Kale guiding it through roaring winds with a practiced hand. At her side, Vyra studied the horizon, eyes narrowed, cloak fluttering like a forest shadow. Kale broke the silence first. Why'd the council trust a lantern maker with the world's fate? Sira bristled. Ask them. I just want to do what I can, what anyone would, if they wanted to see morning again. Vyra scoffed softly. Courage is rarer than you think. Rarer than heartfire, even. The sky flickered. Sira's lantern, tucked in her pack, thudded against the deck. She glanced at it, half expecting the darkness inside to slither out. Instead, it pulsed, brighter and dimmer in time with her heartbeat. Suddenly, the clouds tore open. A shadow beast, half fog and half fangs, lunged from the mist, eyes glowing like coals snuffed by rain. Kale shouted and swerved, but its claws raked the skiff's hull. Sira's knuckles whitened on her lantern as the beast leapt aboard, jaws open wide. Instinct overrode fear. She ripped the lantern free, twisting the base. A surge of starlight exploded from its core, brief, searing, and the beast recoiled, dissolving into ash and oily smoke. The shadow inside the lantern grew thicker, swirling with new fury. Kale eyed Sira with new respect. You'll need more than tricks when we reach my kin. Stormfell trust few outsiders. Prove yourself and they'll lend you their heartfire. Fail, and they'll toss you from the cliffs. Sira nodded, breathless but determined. Then I won't fail. We'll gather what we need and move on. Lightning split the sky behind them, painting the path to Stormfell in stark, blinding white. As the Shard Island's towers rose, Sira glanced back at the darkness swirling in her lantern, a silent promise echoing through its heart. She would not give up, not with the fate of Aeloria hanging, trembling, in the balance. Stormfell was a tempest wrought solid. Towers of black glass jutted from the mountainside, crackling with bolts of wild lightning. At the city's edge, the Stormfell kin gathered, fierce-eyed, armored in thunder, staring at the trio, measuring every word and heartbeat. Kale stepped forward, raising his voice above the thunder. This is Sira, lantern maker and fated tool of Dawntide. She seeks our heartfire, the flame in the Hall of Storms. A ripple of anger moved through the crowd. One woman, a giant even by Stormfell's standards, strode forward, face tight with suspicion. No outsider holds the heartfire unless they pass the trial, she bellowed. If she fails, the darkness can have her. Sira swallowed hard. What's the trial? Lightning's maw, Kale replied grimly. You must reach the heartfire through the core of the storm itself. Vyra squeezed Sira's shoulder subtly. You can do this. Starlight and shadow, remember? Inside, the Hall of Storms blazed with kinetic energy. In the center, upon an obsidian plinth, heartfire hissed, blue and alive, uncaged. A gauntlet of spinning rings crackling with miniature storms spun between Sira and her prize. She stepped forward, energy stung her arms. Thoughts of Miroweld, her grandmother's stories, and that tiny trembling promise inside her lantern spurred her on. With the lantern held high, she whispered, Guide me now, for all of us. Lightning shot from the first ring, arcing towards her. She twisted her lantern, and it sprang to life, catching the bolt and swallowing it. The trapped shadows inside the lantern writhed but didn't escape. Each ring tested her anew, lightning, wind, even shadowy illusions trying to drag her down. But every time Sira faltered, she remembered the faces of those left in the night, waiting for light. The final surge nearly broke her. The biggest bolt yet shot forward, a river of blinding power. Sira screamed and swung her lantern wide. It caught both lightning and shadow, capturing the storm's heart. She staggered forward, chest heaving, and plunged the lantern's base into the heartfire. They fused, a blue-white flame igniting inside the glass. Stormfell burst into cheers. Even Kale looked shaken with pride. The giant, grudgingly respectful, offered Sira a nod. But as she clutched the now-burning lantern, Sira saw something new. A crack forming in the glass, dark wisps leaking out. The price of mingling so much power was becoming clear. darkness and light dangerously intertwined in her hands. Still, she had passed the trial. One clan united, one piece of the lantern forged. Far to the east, shadow spires pierced the sky, waiting for the next step on her impossible journey. A relentless wind chased Sira, Kale, and Vira from the heights of Stormfell toward the emerald wilds of the verdant shroud. Down in the canopies, trees wove together to form living bridges, glowing mushrooms lighting the forest floor with a haunted green. Sira's lantern, now containing Stormfell's heartfire, crackled at her side, the hairline crack snaking wider each day. Kale watched her carefully. "Are you sure it can hold? You're mixing forces that have never touched before." Sira forced a thin smile. "Isn't that what we're here for?" They reached Shroud's border, the Wolf Gate. Sentinels blocked the path, arrows knocked, until Vira stepped forward. "Let them through! I vouch for their mission." Still, the welcome inside was tense. The clan gathered amid sprawling roots, some whispering about Sira's lantern, and the shadows flickering within. The verdant Shroud's council sat in a ring, faces half hidden by leaf masks. The eldest, an old woman with bark for skin, appraised Sira with eyes bright as dew. "You seek the root glass," she intoned. "To do so you must make peace with the forest's ghosts. We have lost many to the darkness. What will you give for our trust?" Sira looked at her trembling hands and the cracked lantern. "I will give you my story, everything I am, and I'll help guide your lost ones home." "Words alone are not enough," said the elder. "You must brave Severed Grove, free those who wander, or lose yourself as they did." Vira squeezed Sira's hand. "I'll go too." Within the Severed Grove the trees closed in, dimming the air. Phantom shapes, faces of those lost to the rift, hovered between the branches. Sira gripped the lantern, its flame bright against the gloom. A lost child's voice whimpered through the leaves. "Help us! Bring the light!" Sira stepped forward, heart pounding, and loosened the lantern's crack just enough. The heartfire bled through the break, releasing a beam of hope. The forest filled with white-blue radiance. One by one, the wandering spirits drifted to the light and vanished into its warmth. But the last ghost, a girl with hollow eyes, resisted, shadows writhing inside her. Sira reached out, ignoring Vira's warning. "Trust me," she whispered, offering the lantern. The spirit seized the lantern, and for a moment, darkness and flame warred, shaking Sira to her bones. Then, the shadows burst free, dissolving into harmless mist. The ghost smiled and faded, leaving behind a shard of root glass. Roots and vines coiled around Sira's arm, giving her a living bond to the forest. The elders nodded as Sira and Vira returned, battered but triumphant. "You have brought peace and proved your heart. Take the root glass. Finish your lantern. Warn the world. The rift is widening." As they left, Kale and Vira arguing about the safest path ahead, Sira studied the new flaw in her lantern. Two clans united, two pieces gathered, but the darkness inside was feeding, growing with each trial. And somewhere far beyond, something monstrous was waiting for her light to falter. The trio pressed north, deeper into lands rarely touched by dawn. Above them, Aeloria's sky fractured, rifts widening, and new stars dying out. Sira's lantern was heavier, the root glass softly glowing, but the shadows within snaked closer to the growing crack, hungry for any escape. Every day brought a new test. Shadow creatures prowled the forest outskirts, and within Sira fatigue gnawed at her resolve. Kale grew impatient, sometimes doubting. If that thing breaks, we're done for. Vira remained gentle but watchful, her trust in Sira fraying at the edges. "We need you, Sira, but don't lose yourself to that darkness." They reached the edge of the sunken vale, the border of the Aelorian exile. Only the outcast clan, the Hallowed, dwelled here, those who had betrayed all others during the Dawn Wars. The ground quaked underfoot, veined with sigils that pulsed a sickly green. A rasping voice greeted them. "What brings the children of light to the Forsaken?" From the fog emerged a wiry man, half shadow, half bone, the Hallowed's leader, Aaron. Eyes like glass, he saw straight into Sira's soul. "I know what you carry. Power the rift covets. Why risk it with us?" Sira stepped forward, trembling. "We need your black silver and night oil. Without all pieces joined, my lantern will fail." Aaron sneered. "And why would the Hallowed help Aeloria after everything?" Kale's fist tightened, but Vira touched his arm. Sira took a breath. "Because I can see you're not monsters. I can't erase your pain, but I can offer hope. Let's end this night together." Aaron considered this, his shadow swirling. "A test, then. Not of skill, of heart. You must give up what binds you most. Only then will the hallowed trust. Enter the Fade, surrender your deepest fear. In the heart of the Hallowed's camp, Sira knelt by the Fade, a well of swirling shadow and starlight. Its voice echoed in her head, pulling memories from her past. Her mother's disappearance, her grandmother's warning, the shame of failing once to save a child from the dark. You must leave this behind, Vira urged, voice shaking. Tears blurred Sira's vision. She reached into the Fade, exhaling all her guilt, her lingering grief, every scrap of self-doubt. For a breathless moment, she felt empty, a blank lantern with no flame. But as her hand closed over the Fade's edge, something warm flickered inside. Hope, raw and unexpected. Iron watched in silence, then nodded. You have faced the night in your soul. Take our gift. He handed her the black-silver ingot and a vial of night oil, cold as the void. Now go. The rift shadows are coming. Your time grows short. Sira turned, her lantern bolstered with new materials and her heart a little lighter. The enemies behind them couldn't compare to the monsters still waiting ahead. Monsters within and without. They camped beneath a jagged moon, the lantern radiating unstable light, shadows churning restlessly inside its glass. Sira stared at her scattering of prize elements, Stormfell's heartfire, verdant root glass, hollowed black silver, and night oil, wondering how she'd ever fit them together, how she could keep the darkness contained for even one more day. Around a flickering campfire, Kale cleaned his blade in silence, wary eyes darting to the edge of every shadow, while Vira methodically patched torn packs. I can't do this, Sira admitted, voice almost swallowed by night. Everything I touch seems to break, even this lantern. Vira dropped her work and knelt beside her. That's not true, Kale grunted. You think I hadn't failed before? I lost my brother to the first shadow beasts. Failure's not what destroys us. Giving up is. Sira gazed at the lantern, dark tendrils pressing against the crack. It feels like it wants to break free if I lose control. Vira caught her gaze, fierce and gentle all at once. But you haven't, and you won't. We believe in you. Hold on. A sudden hush fell over the woods. The lantern's shadow twisted upwards, forming a nearly human outline. A woman's voice rose from the dark. Sira, child of light, give me the lantern and I will mend the sky. Sira stood trembling. The shadow woman's face was scarily familiar, her missing mother's features pale and unreadable. Sira's heart skipped. Mother? The shadow smiled. Join me, daughter. Together we will make Aeloria safe again. No sacrifices needed. Kale was up, sword out, but Vira moved faster, stepping between Sira and the shadow. Don't listen, it's playing on your heart. The lantern vibrated, glass splintering under the strain. Sira looked into the shadow's eyes, her own pain and longing reflected there. You're not real, she whispered, voice breaking. My mother would never beg me to run from my fear. The shadow shrieked, writhing back into the lantern. The crack widened, edges glowing red with dangerous energy. Kale and Vira pulled Sira back as the campfire exploded in a shower of sparks. But Sira stood straighter, her voice steadier than before. I know what I have to do. We have the last of the materials, and only one place left to forge the lantern that will bind the clans and turn back the rift. Dawntide. The others exchanged anxious glances, but nodded. The final journey would begin at first light. Above, the moon seemed to weep, and in the distance the relentless darkness crept closer, hungry and patient. Aeloria itself was wounded. As Sira, Kale, and Vira clambered across broken bridges and crumbling starways, the sky's gash yawned wide. Nightmare creatures now stalking openly, clawing at the lantern's growing crack whenever Sira uncloaked it. In the distance, Dawntide Citadel glimmered like the last memory of day, but even its towers seemed smaller, dimmer, dwarfed by the shadow bleeding from the rift. Inside Dawntide, panic had given way to grim determination. The council awaited, their robes frayed, faces etched with dread. Amara, oldest of them, beckoned Sira over to the great forge, a room suffused with memories, the first lanterns, the lore of every clan etched into the walls. Vira dropped the root glass and Kale supplied the heartfire, while Sira readied the black silver and night oil, all trembling in her aching hands. Amara's voice was grave. You are ready? Sira paused, fear snarled at her, but she looked at the friends beside her, at the hope in the staring crowd. I don't know if I'm ready, but I know what's at stake. As she set the cracked lantern on the anvil, its scar pulsed, gold and black intertwined. The room buzzed with tension. You must forge the lantern anew, Amara intoned. But beware, the shadow within will resist. All your doubt, all your pain, it wants you to break. The forging began. Flames danced, root glass melted. Sira shaping each piece with trembling hands, sweat stinging her eyes. The shadows inside fought back. Memories of loss, the hollow gaze of her mother, every fear she'd silenced along the way. Each one tried to twist her fingers away from the light. Vira steadied Sira's elbow. Kale's hand rested on her shoulder. You're not alone. Remember the pact. Sira poured the night oil, and for a moment, utter darkness claimed the room. Even the council's lights blinked out. In pure black, Sira heard the rift whisper, "Give in. Your lantern will shatter. Let night reign." She forced her memories forward. Kale's forgiveness, Vira's steady courage, the silent hope of Stormfell, the peace she brought to the verdant shroud, the redemption offered by the Hallowed. With trembling defiance, Sira wove every lesson and every pain into the forming lantern. When the lights flared back, the new lantern shone, a thing of impossible beauty and strength. Shadow and starlight spun within, no longer at war but held in perfect balance. But before relief could bloom, cracks raced across the room's walls. The rift widened, spilling forth a monstrous form. Its limbs, shadow incarnate, towered over even the council's highest spire. Its mouth twisted in a silent scream. It hungered for the lantern and for Sira's heart. There was no turning back. The final battle had begun. The council chamber shook, ancient stones raining dust as the rift monster clawed into Aeloria's heart. Every window ran black with shadow. Sira gripped the new lantern, its light burning clear and true, but her arms trembled as the beast's roar battered her ears and mind. All around, warriors and counselors broke, stumbling as nightmares thrashed in their heads. Kale pushed himself between Sira and the monster, sword raised, but shadows consumed the blade before it struck home. Vira spun a web of green light, only for claws to shred it like silk. The lantern's brightness sputtered as darkness battered Dawntide's heart. The monster drew close, its gaping jaws split with spectral shapes, lost souls screaming and clawing out. A cold certainty gripped Sira. This creature was a host for every fear, every sorrow the clans had buried. Defeating it meant facing what they all had run from. It was never meant to be easy, Sira whispered, more to herself than anyone. Kale heard her, battered but unbroken beside her. "We stand with you," he gasped, defiant even in the monster's shadow. "What good is my lantern if it only holds my light?" Sira cried, desperate. "We need all of you." She thrust the lantern into the air and called, "Stormfell! If you ever love the dawn, lend me your strength." From the battered crowd came a pulse of blue lightning. Dozens of hands raised, hearts filled with hope and memory. The lantern blazed brighter. "Verdant shroud, for every wandering soul." Green light surged from Vira's kin as their voices joined hers, roots twining around the chamber, shielding the flickering flame. "Hallowed," she shouted, voice breaking with hope and fear alike. "You know the night best of all. Help me turn it away." A cold wind blew as the Hallowed added shadow not as destruction but as balance, weaving it in harmony with the light. The lantern surged, whiter and blacker, a paradox held in Sira's trembling hands. The rift monster struck. Sira staggered, but did not yield. Her arms, Kale's battered courage, Vira's hope, all poured into the lantern, its glow swelling until it rivaled the dawn. The monster shrieked, faltering as its own shadows recoiled from the balanced light. But it was not enough. Cracks appeared along the lantern's new shell, too much power mounting, threatening to split it apart. Sira's voice was raw. "I have to do more. I have to let it take me, even if I can't return." Kale's eyes filled with tears, but he nodded. "If it must be, let it be on your terms." Vira clung to Sira's hand. "Your light carries us all. Whatever happens, we remember, always." Sira stepped forward, lantern in hand. She looked at the monstrous shadow, and meeting it eye to eye, spoke softly, "No night without day, no light without shadow. Take me if you must, but the dawn will always follow." Then, as the lantern's final crack grew, Sira walked into the jaws of darkness, both her friend's hands never letting go until the last possible moment. The lantern burst into light and shadow entwined, a blinding flash that swallowed Monster Rift and Sira herself. The world teetered on a breath between night and day, hope and despair. And then, silence, as all Aeloria waited to see what price hope truly demanded. When the blinding light faded, Dawn's first colors wove through the shattered dome of Dawntide Citadel. For a heartbeat, all was still, suspended between worlds. The monster was gone. The black rift was sealed with starfire, scars crossing the sky like the afterglow of a long, terrible wound. Yet Sira was nowhere to be seen. The clans emerged from wreckage in silence. Stormfell's battered warriors, the green-robed seers of the verdant shroud, the Hollowed's pale exiles, all peered at the center of the ruined hall, hearts hammering with dread and hope. There, where the rift had swallowed Sira, floated her lantern, whole again, brighter than ever, but empty. It drifted to the floor, and Kale reached for it, fingers trembling. Vyra fell to her knees, tears streaking her cheeks. Sira, no phantom stepped from the shadow, no guiding voice echoed, only the steady pulse of the lantern's balanced glow. Amara limped forward, her old voice breaking the hush. "Look!" She pointed toward the highest breach in the glass roof. Above, the stars burned clearer and closer. One by one they began to fall, gentle, shimmering embers. As they struck the earth, lost spirits rejoined their kin, the wounded healed, and darkness shrank back into the shape of natural night. All across Aeloria, people emerged from hiding, lifting new lanterns. Sira's lantern, now split into 1,000 pieces that found their way into the hands of anyone who'd lost hope. Each shard held both shadow and light, anchoring the dawn in every corner of the land. Kale and Vyra held the original lantern between them. Kale spoke, voice thick and proud. "She showed us what's possible. Every clan, every fault forgiven. The world is different now." Vyra looked to the breaking morning. Light, shadow, and every heart between. Sira gave it all so we could have both. We will never be the same. In the quiet that followed, as the battered council, clans, and kin rebuilt together, word of Sira's courage went out like a watchfire. The Lanternborne Pact, a promise that dawn always follows even the bleakest night, became law and legend. Sira's memory lived in the flicker of every lamp and the bond of every new friendship. And from time to time, when starlight fell to whisper secrets, children swore they heard Sira's voice, brave and gentle, reminding them, "Every true light knows how to hold its darkness, and every darkness waits for dawn." Under the healing sky, Aeloria's greatest lantern shone on, a testament to the courage one underdog forged for them all.